Imagine this: you're lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. It's 2 a.m., and your brain is replaying every awkward moment, every unanswered question, every what-if scenario. Sound familiar? If so, you might be an overthinker or know someone who is. Overthinkers often suffer from what is commonly referred to as paralysis by analysis, a condition where the overwhelming need to make the perfect decision leads to an inability to decide at all. This phenomenon stems from the relentless quest for certainty in an inherently uncertain world. Overthinkers tend to analyze every detail, scenario, and possible consequence, often magnifying even trivial decisions into monumental dilemmas. While their intent is rooted in wanting to make the best choice, the process frequently backfires, leaving them stuck in an endless loop of consideration without action. This paralysis occurs because the overthinker is caught in a tug-of-war between competing options, each weighed down by an avalanche of potential outcomes. For example, something as simple as choosing what to say in a meeting or which email tone to use can become a painstaking process. They consider every word, every phrase, and how others might interpret them, cycling through all the ways the choice might lead to missteps or judgment. As a result, overthinkers often spend more time deliberating than acting, leaving tasks unfinished and decisions deferred. The desire for perfection amplifies this struggle. Overthinkers frequently hold themselves to impossibly high standards, fearing that any mistake will lead to failure or disappointment. This fear is often tied to a deep sense of responsibility or self-worth. They may think, if I make the wrong choice, I'll disappoint others, or worse, I'll prove to myself that I'm not good enough. Consequently, their self-imposed pressure creates a mental environment where inaction feels safer than risking a mistake. Ironically, this inaction often becomes the very thing that causes problems, further reinforcing their fears. Another factor that exacerbates paralysis by analysis is the abundance of choices in modern life. Overthinkers thrive in structure but falter when faced with countless options. For instance, deciding on a career path, choosing a life partner, or even selecting a product online can become overwhelming when there are numerous alternatives to consider. Each choice feels like it carries a weighty significance, leading the overthinker to scrutinize every variable, research endlessly, and delay making any decision. In their minds, committing to one option inherently means abandoning all others, which triggers feelings of loss and regret even for paths they've never walked. The overthinking cycle doesn't just stop at the decision-making phase, it extends to the aftermath as well. If an overthinker does manage to make a choice, they often revisit it repeatedly, questioning whether it was the right one. This post-decision analysis can be just as draining as the initial deliberation, with thoughts like, what if I'd chosen differently? Or did I miss a better opportunity? These thoughts can lead to regret and self-doubt, perpetuating the cycle of overthinking in future decisions. Moreover, overthinkers often perceive decisions as defining moments, attaching immense importance to their outcomes. In reality, many decisions in life are not as critical as they seem. For instance, choosing a dinner spot or deciding which hobby to pursue is unlikely to have long-term repercussions. However, overthinkers magnify these choices, treating each as a pivotal crossroads. This distorted sense of significance makes every decision feel daunting and amplifies the pressure to make the perfect choice. The impact of paralysis by analysis isn't limited to the individual, it often affects their relationships, work performance, and overall being. In professional settings, overthinkers may struggle with deadlines as they spend excessive time refining their work or second-guessing their approach. This can frustrate colleagues and supervisors who value timely results over perfection. In personal relationships, overthinkers may hesitate to express themselves or commit to plans, fearing potential conflicts or misunderstandings. These behaviors can lead to misunderstandings and strain with friends, family, or partners, who may misinterpret the overthinker's hesitation as disinterest or as decisiveness. The emotional toll of this paralysis is significant. Overthinkers often experience heightened levels of stress and anxiety, as their minds are constantly engaged in mental debates. This perpetual state of mental activity can lead to exhaustion, making it even harder to break free from the cycle. Over time, chronic overthinking can contribute to feelings of helplessness and frustration, as individuals feel trapped in their own thoughts, unable to move forward. Despite its challenges, paralysis by analysis is not insurmountable. Recognizing the patterns that lead to overthinking is the first step toward change. Overthinkers can benefit from reframing their approach to decision-making, focusing on progress rather than perfection. Accepting that no choice is entirely risk-free, and that mistakes are an inevitable part of growth can help alleviate the fear of making the wrong decision. Additionally, setting time limits for deliberation and committing to small, incremental actions can reduce the tendency to overanalyze. Practicing self-compassion is equally important, as it allows overthinkers to release the pressure of needing to be flawless and embrace their humanity. In conclusion, paralysis by analysis is a significant source of suffering for overthinkers, as it traps them in a cycle of indecision and self-doubt. While their intention is to avoid mistakes and make the best possible choices, the excessive analysis often leads to inaction and regret. By understanding the root causes of this paralysis and adopting strategies to manage it, overthinkers can learn to navigate their thought processes more effectively. Life is not a puzzle that requires perfect answers, it's a journey that unfolds through action. Sometimes the best way to move forward is to take a step, even if it's not perfect. Overthinkers often live in the mental world of what-if, a realm where hypothetical scenarios dominate their thoughts and obscure reality. This persistent dwelling on possibilities, most of which are unlikely or even impossible, creates a unique form of suffering. Unlike tangible problems that can be addressed or solved, what-if scenarios are infinite in nature, leaving overthinkers trapped in a cycle of uncertainty and anxiety. The human mind is remarkably adept at imagination, but when overthinking takes hold, this creativity becomes a source of distress rather than inspiration. The what-if mindset is rooted in the fear of negative outcomes. Overthinkers constantly consider what could go wrong, often magnifying minor risks into catastrophic possibilities. For example, before making a presentation, an overthinker might imagine forgetting their lines, being judged harshly by the audience, or even losing their credibility entirely. These imagined outcomes might feel as real as actual events, triggering the same physical and emotional stress responses. The brain, unable to differentiate between real danger and perceived danger, goes into overdrive, creating a state of heightened anxiety. The overthinker becomes paralyzed by fear, avoiding action to prevent these imagined disasters. This pattern of catastrophic thinking extends to all aspects of life. In relationships, overthinkers may agonize over whether their partner truly cares for them, dissecting every word and action for hidden meanings. A delayed text message or a curt reply can spiral into thoughts like, what if they're losing interest? Or what if I've done something wrong? These internal narratives often lead to unnecessary conflict, as the overthinker's need for reassurance may strain the relationship. Similarly, in their careers, overthinkers might dwell on worst-case scenarios like being fired for a minor mistake, even if there's no indication of such an outcome. These imagined fears consume mental energy, leaving little room for positive or productive thinking. The tendency to dwell on what-if scenarios often stems from a desire for control. Overthinkers believe that by anticipating every possible outcome, they can prepare themselves for the worst and mitigate potential risks. This coping mechanism may provide a temporary sense of security, but ultimately becomes counterproductive. Instead of reducing uncertainty, it amplifies it, as the overthinker generates an endless stream of hypothetical problems to solve. The brain, overwhelmed by these imagined threats, struggles to focus on the present moment, leaving the individual mentally exhausted and emotionally drained. Overthinkers also struggle with a deep need for certainty in an inherently uncertain world. Life is unpredictable, and no amount of planning or mental rehearsal can account for every variable. Yet, the overthinker resists this reality, attempting to construct a safety net of scenarios in their mind. This effort to control the uncontrollable often leads to frustration and a sense of helplessness. For example, an overthinker planning a vacation might worry about everything from bad weather to missed flights, crafting contingency plans for each scenario. While some level of preparation is healthy, excessive focus on unlikely problems robs the overthinker of the joy and excitement that should accompany such plans. The emotional impact of living in what-if mode is profound. Overthinkers often experience heightened levels of anxiety as their constant anticipation of danger keeps their stress responses activated. They may also develop feelings of guilt or shame, believing they are somehow responsible for not preventing hypothetical disasters. These emotions can lead to a negative self-image, further fueling the cycle of overthinking. Additionally, the mental strain of constantly imagining worst-case scenarios can contribute to physical symptoms such as headaches, fatigue, and insomnia, creating a vicious cycle where worry begets more worry. Living in the realm of what if also prevents overthinkers from fully engaging with the present moment. Their thoughts are so consumed by future uncertainties that they struggle to appreciate what is happening here and now. This disconnection from the present can lead to missed opportunities for joy, growth, and connection. For instance, an overthinker at a social gathering might spend the evening worrying about saying the wrong thing or making a bad impression, rather than enjoying the company of others. Over time, this pattern can erode their quality of life, as they become more focused on potential problems than actual experiences. Breaking free from the what-if mindset requires a conscious effort to reframe thinking patterns. Overthinkers must learn to distinguish between productive and unproductive thoughts. Productive thinking involves identifying realistic challenges and taking steps to address them. Unproductive thinking, by contrast, involves dwelling on unlikely or uncontrollable outcomes. By practicing mindfulness, overthinkers can train themselves to focus on the present and let go of hypothetical worries. Techniques like deep breathing, meditation, or journaling can help calm the mind and reduce the urge to spiral into what-if scenarios. It's also important for overthinkers to challenge their assumptions about control and certainty. Life is unpredictable and no one can prepare for every eventuality. Accepting this truth can be liberating, as it allows overthinkers to release their need for perfection and embrace the unknown. Building a sense of trust in their ability to handle challenges as they arise can also reduce the compulsion to anticipate every possible outcome. In conclusion, the what-if mindset is a significant source of suffering for overthinkers, as it traps them in a cycle of fear, uncertainty, and anxiety. While their intention is to prepare and protect themselves from harm, the constant dwelling on hypothetical scenarios often causes more harm than the situations they fear. By learning to focus on the present moment, challenge unproductive thoughts, and accept the inherent uncertainty of life, overthinkers can break free from this mental trap and find greater peace and fulfillment. Life is too short to be lived in the shadow of imaginary fears. Sometimes, the best way to face the unknown is to trust that we will be okay, no matter what happens. Overthinking and its connection to anxiety create a loop that can significantly impair an individual's mental and physical health. When someone habitually overthinks, their mind becomes trapped in a relentless cycle of worry and doubt, which fuels chronic anxiety. This connection is not just emotional or psychological, it also has tangible physical effects, making overthinking a full-body experience of stress. Understanding how this cycle works sheds light on why overthinkers often suffer so deeply, and why breaking free requires conscious effort and intentional strategies. At its core, overthinking activates the body's stress response. Often referred to as fight or flight, this response is a natural reaction designed to protect us in dangerous situations. When faced with a real threat, the brain triggers the release of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, sharpening focus and preparing the body for immediate action. However, in overthinkers, the brain interprets hypothetical worries as if they were real threats. As a result, their stress response is constantly activated, even when no actual danger exists. Over time, this prolonged state of heightened alertness takes a toll on the body and mind, leading to exhaustion and a diminished capacity to cope with daily life. One of the most insidious aspects of this dynamic is how overthinking amplifies small concerns into overwhelming fears. An overthinker might start with a simple thought, like wondering if they locked the door before leaving the house. That thought can quickly spiral into imagining scenarios where someone breaks in, possessions are stolen, or loved ones are harmed, all because of one forgotten detail. These scenarios trigger feelings of guilt, panic, and self-recrimination, which further fuel anxiety. The brain becomes trapped in a loop, unable to distinguish between actual risks and imagined ones, causing stress to compound with each passing moment. This constant mental activity can lead to physical symptoms that further exacerbate the problem. Overthinkers often report tension, headaches, muscle pain, and digestive issues, all of which are common manifestations of stress. Sleep disturbances are another major consequence, as racing thoughts at night make it difficult to fall asleep or stay asleep. This lack of rest creates a vicious cycle. Fatigue makes it harder to manage stress during the day, which leads to more overthinking and anxiety at night. Over time, the cumulative effect of these physical symptoms can weaken the immune system, leaving overthinkers more susceptible to illness. Chronic overthinking and anxiety also affect emotional well-being. Overthinkers often feel trapped in their own minds, unable to escape the barrage of negative thoughts. This creates feelings of helplessness and frustration, as they recognize the pattern but feel powerless to change it. These emotions can escalate into self-doubt and a sense of failure, as overthinkers may believe their inability to control their thoughts is a personal shortcoming. In some cases, this can lead to depressive symptoms, as the constant battle with anxiety drains their energy and optimism. Overthinking also impacts relationships, both personal and professional. An overthinker may second-guess every interaction, worrying about how they were perceived or whether they said the wrong thing. This excessive self-scrutiny can create a barrier to authentic connection, as the overthinker becomes more focused on managing their internal fears than on engaging with others. In professional settings, overthinking can lead to procrastination or perfectionism, as individuals hesitate to take action for fear of making mistakes. This can cause missed opportunities and strain with colleagues or supervisors who may misinterpret the overthinker's hesitation as a lack of confidence or initiative. The tendency to overthink is often driven by a desire for control. Overthinkers believe that by analyzing every detail and anticipating every outcome, they can prevent failure, avoid embarrassment, or mitigate risk. While this approach may provide a temporary sense of security, it ultimately backfires. Instead of reducing anxiety, it reinforces it, as the overthinker becomes hyper-aware of all the potential ways things could go wrong. This hypervigilance is mentally exhausting and creates a feedback loop, where the more they think, the more anxious they become. Breaking this cycle requires a shift in mindset and deliberate practice. One of the most effective strategies is to focus on what can be controlled and to accept what cannot. Overthinkers often expend energy on hypothetical problems that are beyond their influence. Learning to let go of these concerns can free up mental space and reduce stress. Mindfulness practices, such as meditation or deep breathing, can help overthinkers stay grounded in the present moment, interrupting the spiral of anxious thoughts. Another helpful approach is to set boundaries around thinking time. For example, overthinkers can designate a specific period each day to reflect on their concerns. Once that time is up, they commit to redirecting their focus to other activities. This practice trains the brain to limit overthinking and reinforces the idea that not all problems need immediate solutions. Additionally, seeking support from a therapist or counselor can provide valuable tools and perspectives for managing anxiety and breaking free from the cycle of overthinking. In conclusion, overthinking fuels anxiety by keeping the brain in a constant state of stress and worry, which negatively impacts mental, emotional, and physical health. The habit of amplifying small concerns into major fears creates a feedback loop that is difficult to escape, leaving overthinkers feeling trapped and exhausted. However, with awareness and intentional effort, it is possible to interrupt this cycle and regain control. By focusing on the present moment, setting boundaries around thinking time, and accepting the inherent uncertainties of life, overthinkers can find relief and learn to manage their anxiety more effectively. Life is not meant to be lived in fear of every possibility. It is meant to be experienced fully, with courage and trust in one's ability to navigate whatever comes. Overthinkers often suffer because they struggle to live in the present moment. Their minds are caught in an endless loop of replaying past mistakes and worrying about future uncertainties. This tendency to dwell on the what was and the what could be robs them of the ability to fully engage with and appreciate what is happening in the here and now. The habit of overanalyzing the past and anticipating the future creates a mental and emotional disconnect from the present, leading to a diminished quality of life and a perpetual sense of dissatisfaction. The pull of the past can be particularly strong for overthinkers. They often replay conversations, events, or decisions, examining every detail and questioning whether they acted correctly or could have done something differently. Even small, inconsequential moments can become magnified in their minds as they scrutinize every word and action for potential mistakes or missed opportunities. For example, an overthinker might repeatedly analyze a casual comment they made in a social setting, worrying that it may have offended someone or been misunderstood. This constant revisitation of the past creates a mental burden, as they relive moments that cannot be changed, often experiencing the same emotions of regret or embarrassment as if the event were happening all over again. At the same time, overthinkers are consumed by thoughts of the future, perpetually worrying about what might go wrong. They play out endless scenarios in their minds, trying to anticipate every possible outcome and prepare for any potential failure or problem. While some degree of planning for the future is healthy, overthinkers take this to an extreme, imagining unlikely worst-case scenarios that often have no basis in reality. This excessive focus on what might happen next creates a constant state of unease, as they try to control outcomes that are inherently unpredictable. For example, an overthinker planning for a vacation might worry about everything from flight delays to weather conditions, focusing so much on what could go wrong that they cannot enjoy the excitement of the upcoming trip. This preoccupation with the past and future leaves little room for overthinkers to experience the present. Even moments of joy or relaxation can be overshadowed by intrusive thoughts about mistakes they made yesterday or challenges they might face tomorrow. Overthinkers may find themselves physically present in a situation but mentally absent, unable to fully engage with the people or activities around them. For instance, they might attend a family gathering but spend the entire time worrying about an upcoming work project or replaying a disagreement from the previous week. This inability to be fully present not only diminishes their own enjoyment but can also strain relationships, as loved ones may feel they are not truly being listened to or valued. The emotional impact of this disconnect from the present can be profound. Overthinkers often feel a sense of emptiness or dissatisfaction, as they are unable to find contentment in the moment. Their constant focus on the past and future creates a feeling of being stuck in a mental limbo, where the present is merely a fleeting transition between what was and what will be. This can lead to feelings of frustration, sadness, and even hopelessness, as they struggle to break free from the cycle of overthinking and engage with the life unfolding around them. Moreover, this pattern of living outside the present moment can have significant physical consequences. Chronic overthinking and the stress it generates can lead to tension, headaches, fatigue, and other stress-related health issues. The inability to relax and enjoy the present can also disrupt sleep patterns, as overthinkers often lie awake at night replaying past events or worrying about future problems. Over time, these physical symptoms can further exacerbate their mental and emotional struggles, creating a vicious cycle that is difficult to escape. Breaking free from this pattern requires intentional effort and a commitment to mindfulness. Mindfulness, the practice of bringing one's attention to the present moment, can be a powerful tool for overthinkers. By focusing on their immediate surroundings, physical sensations, or the rhythm of their breath, overthinkers can learn to quiet the noise of their thoughts and reconnect with the present. For example, during a walk in nature, an overthinker might focus on the sound of birds, the feel of the ground beneath their feet, or the scent of flowers, allowing themselves to fully experience the moment without distraction. Another effective strategy is to cultivate gratitude. By consciously acknowledging the positive aspects of the present, overthinkers can shift their focus away from regrets about the past or fears about the future. Keeping a gratitude journal, where they write down a few things they are thankful for each day, can help reinforce this habit and promote a more positive outlook on life. Setting boundaries for reflection and worry is also essential. Overthinkers can designate specific times for revisiting the past or planning for the future, ensuring that these activities do not overshadow their ability to live in the present. For instance, they might allow themselves 15 minutes each evening to reflect on the day or plan for tomorrow. But outside of that time, they commit to focusing on the present moment. In conclusion, overthinkers suffer deeply because their minds are caught between the past and the future, leaving them disconnected from the present. This constant preoccupation with what was and what might be prevents them from fully experiencing and appreciating the here and now, leading to emotional dissatisfaction, strained relationships, and physical health challenges. However, by practicing mindfulness, cultivating gratitude, and setting boundaries for reflection, overthinkers can learn to break free from this cycle and reclaim the joy and fulfillment that come from living in the moment. The present is a gift, one that can only be unwrapped by letting go of the weight of the past and the uncertainty of the future. The lives of overthinkers are often plagued by perfectionism, a mindset that sets unattainably high standards and fosters a fear of failure. Overthinkers frequently tie their sense of self-worth to achieving flawless results in every aspect of their lives, whether at work, in relationships, or personal goals. This relentless pursuit of perfection leads to a constant cycle of stress, self-criticism, and dissatisfaction, as they rarely feel their efforts are good enough. The belief that perfection is not only desirable but necessary creates immense internal pressure, turning even minor setbacks into significant sources of suffering. Perfectionism compels overthinkers to scrutinize their actions to the smallest detail, often second-guessing their decisions or delaying them entirely out of fear of making a mistake. A task as simple as writing an email or choosing an outfit can become an ordeal, as overthinkers evaluate every possible consequence of their choice. They may spend hours revising and refining, striving for an ideal outcome that often exists only in their minds. While they may succeed in producing excellent results, the mental and emotional toll of this process is immense. Their quest for perfection frequently leaves them feeling exhausted and dissatisfied, as no amount of effort seems to meet their impossibly high expectations. One of the most destructive aspects of perfectionism is how it turns mistakes into catastrophes. Overthinkers are often hypersensitive to failure, viewing even small errors as personal flaws or evidence of inadequacy. For example, a minor oversight at work might trigger a spiral of self-criticism with thoughts like, "I should have been more careful," or "this proves I'm not capable." This tendency to catastrophize mistakes prevents overthinkers from learning and growing from their experiences, as they become consumed by guilt and shame instead of focusing on how to improve. Over time, this fear of failure can lead to avoidance behaviors, where overthinkers hesitate to take risks or try new things, fearing the possibility of imperfection. Relationships are another area where perfectionism deeply affects overthinkers. They often set unrealistic standards for themselves and others, expecting flawless communication, unwavering support, and perfect harmony. When these expectations are inevitably unmet, because no relationship is without conflict or challenges, overthinkers may feel disappointed, frustrated, or even resentful. They may also struggle with vulnerability, fearing that showing their flaws will lead to rejection or judgment. As a result, they may keep others at arm's length or mask their true feelings, which can create distance and misunderstandings in their relationships. The impact of perfectionism extends beyond personal and emotional well-being. It also affects productivity and success. While overthinkers often take pride in their thoroughness and attention to detail, their perfectionist tendencies can lead to procrastination. The desire to produce flawless work may cause them to delay starting a task as they wait for the right time or ideal conditions. Once they do begin, they may spend excessive time revising and reworking, making it difficult to meet deadlines or balance other responsibilities. This cycle of over-preparation and delay can hinder their progress and create additional stress, as they struggle to keep up with their commitments. The emotional toll of perfectionism is profound. Overthinkers often experience chronic stress and anxiety as they constantly push themselves to meet impossible standards. They may feel trapped in a cycle of effort and disappointment, where no amount of work feels sufficient to achieve their ideal outcomes. This persistent dissatisfaction can erode their self-esteem, as they internalize the belief that they are only as valuable as their achievements. Over time, this mindset can lead to feelings of burnout, hopelessness, and even depression, as they struggle to find joy or meaning in their efforts. Breaking free from the grip of perfectionism requires a fundamental shift in perspective. Overthinkers must learn to challenge their beliefs about what it means to succeed and to redefine their standards for themselves and others. One effective strategy is to focus on progress rather than perfection, recognizing that growth and improvement are more important than flawless outcomes. For example, instead of striving to write a perfect report at work, an overthinker might set a goal to complete a thorough and clear draft within a reasonable time frame, acknowledging that revisions can always be made later. Practicing self-compassion is another powerful tool for overcoming perfectionism. Overthinkers often hold themselves to harsher standards than they would apply to others, berating themselves for mistakes that they would easily forgive in a friend or colleague. By treating themselves with the same kindness and understanding they extend to others, overthinkers can begin to let go of the guilt and shame that often accompany imperfection. This shift can help them develop a healthier relationship with failure, viewing it as an opportunity to learn and grow rather than a reflection of their worth. Mindfulness can also play a key role in reducing the hold of perfectionism. By focusing on the present moment, overthinkers can quiet the constant mental chatter that drives their need for perfection. Mindfulness practices like meditation, deep breathing, or journaling can help them tune into their thoughts and emotions without judgment, creating space to respond to challenges with clarity and calm rather than fear and self-doubt. In conclusion, perfectionism is a significant source of suffering for overthinkers, as it creates unrealistic expectations and a fear of failure that permeates every aspect of their lives. This relentless pursuit of flawlessness leads to stress, dissatisfaction, and a diminished sense of self-worth, as they rarely feel their efforts are good enough. However, by shifting their focus to progress, practicing self-compassion, and embracing mindfulness, overthinkers can begin to break free from the cycle of perfectionism. Life is not about being perfect, it's about being human, learning from mistakes, and finding joy in the journey rather than the destination. Letting go of perfection opens the door to a more fulfilling and balanced life, where imperfections are seen not as flaws but as opportunities for growth and connection.